Welcome to episode 10 of that Dynasty podcast. I am your host, Matthew, back from the vocal graveyard, and alongside my co-host, Isiah. We're super excited to be back this week. Isiah, what's up, man?
Not much, bro. Just chilling. Had a busy day. Been bumping the new Drake album. Life is good.
Well, I appreciate you very much for filling in for me last week when I was unable to host, and now my voice is back to probably 90%. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But thank you again for taking time to guide us through what was week 9 and the recaps at that time. So appreciate you, man.
Just trying to make you proud with my deliverance. I'm, nothing compared to you, but I'm proud to sit where you stood.
Oh, please, I'm blushing. As always, though, guys, we are super excited to talk about the past week that just happened, and of course, look ahead at week 10 coming up. Before we do get into everything, I think you know the drill at this point. Follow us on Twitter, please, and TikTok at That Dynasty Podcast to stay connected with us throughout the week. We do have full videos up on our YouTube channel for all of our podcast episodes. We also have our podcasts available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want the links for those, it's in the description as well as the show notes. And if you want something different in basically how we run the podcast on a week-to-week basis, or maybe there's topics or questions you have for us about being in a dynasty league or what that looks like, or just any sort of fantasy football questions in general, just let us know in the comments on YouTube or tweet at us. We will respond. And hey, we've even done custom videos for people before on TikTok responding to questions that have been asked. So don't be afraid to ask anything that you have, and we would love to get more engaged with you guys on a weekly basis. But let's get started, Isiah. What are we looking at for this episode?
We got a bunch of league updates, including name changes. We'll get further breakdown. We got a trade to talk about. We're going to change things up this week with Bops and Flops. We're going to do something a little bit different than Bops and Flops. I want to go over last week's and make our predictions for this week, see how many games Matthew caught up in predictions, and then we're going to do our MVP segment, and then we'll do our power rankings. So, you want to get started off with some of the league updates?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I do know, of course, we did have a couple of ads and drops this week that were noticed. So kind of all started off right before we filmed the podcast last week. And it was the NFL trade deadline, and Andy dropped IRV SMITH right after the Hawkinson news came out, and IRV SMITH went on the IR, and Andy just straight up dropped him. And so IRV SMITH went to waivers. And Isiah, why don't you tell us what happened next?
Yeah, because of the sudden inflation that's hit our country the last couple of years, some may blame it on Democrats, some may blame it on Republicans. But this inflation, it all resides on my shoulders. I spent $700, repeat, $700 on IRV SMITH Jr. Just to confirm, Matthew, you're tracking. I think Trevor was the other guy who put down some FAAB, and I think it was a little bit less than 700. It was like 699, maybe somewhere in that ballpark.
Maybe a little bit less than 699.
20.
Let's just say it was less than 20.
That's a tough look. That is not what you want. But here, let me give my reasoning for this. All right, he's 24. He still has a lot of potential. He's obviously young. Obviously, he's probably cooked for the year. Hawkinson's in that offense. I don't even think he'd make it back anyways. But he was drafted in the 9th round of this year's Dynasty draft. In this league, we do have over 1,000 bench spots for each team. So, I figured, why not? I don't know. I think he's too much valuable to be left on waivers considering he's 24. He was actually pretty good this year compared to what he's been earlier. Like the last 3 weeks, he's put up about 10 plus a week. I don't know. I don't think he's that bad. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, he's not playing, but
I agree. I like IRV SMITH a lot as a player. I think the ridiculousness was just that you bid 700 FAAB for a player that isn't going to play the rest of this year, and it's the second tight end on his team when he comes back. But that's, I guess, neither here nor there. I think that's the last you're ever going to hear about it. I think that, we're never
Oh
going
no, it is definitely not the last I'm going to hear about it. Absolutely.
to, and we're definitely not going to talk about it anymore the rest of this podcast. That being said, can you just go over what any of the name changes that happened this week?
Yeah, from what I remember, none of them have to do with that chain of events that went down. But so we had a couple. We had Andy went from Russell does high knees to Kirk wears all the chains.
Dude, did you see that video, by the way, of Kirk Cousins on the airplane?
I did street cred plus 10. Yeah,
He was
making white boys cool again, bro. It's cool to be a white boy sometimes. Um, to Will Terrell went from started from the bottom to one more W and I'm good. Um, Matthew changed his name. He went from truck it up to bad luck to $96 FAAB bids. Have no idea what that has to do with. Moving on, Angie went from table humping trash to Isaiah's tiny purse. Once again, no idea what that refers to. And lastly, Dan went from blown out street meat to Isaiah's tight end graveyard. Not sure who this Isiah guy is and what everyone's fascination is. Maybe he's just some handsome feller. And but yeah, I'm absolutely ready to move on from this subject if you are.
I have to clarify for anyone who doesn't understand, the $96 FAAB bid has to do with the fact that Isaiah only has $95. So for the rest of the year, if there's any player that's on FAAB, you just have to bid $96 and you're guaranteed that Isaiah can't get them from you.
Okay, but let's look at who is on waivers right now. I'm pretty sure like the two highest players right there, like Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski, were both retired. So fishing at the bottom of the barrel. Good luck.
I mean, listen, that's we got Richie James out there right now and Kyler.
Ooh, Richie James.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about some trades. So there was one trade that went down this week. It was a trade between myself, $96 FAAB bids, and Angie, Isaiah's tiny purse. And that
Make it stop. Make it stop.
that trade was Deshawn Watson for Stafford and a 23 second and a 24 first round pick. So Deshaun Watson in exchange for Matthew Stafford, a 23 second round pick and a 24 first round pick. Those picks were from the 23 second was from Isaiah, and the 24 first is Seaton Powers. What's your thoughts on this move for me?
Ooh, high risk, high reward is how I'd put it in 4 words. Obviously love Watson football ability. Make sure I put football ability. His relative youth. He's got great hands when he's using them consensually. Obviously, Stafford doesn't have much value considering his age and his performance so far this year. But dude, a first and a second for a QB who's on a team we've never seen before and has obviously been drowned in absolute controversy for the last year and a half. So that's a lot. You're taking a big risk. That's a first and a second. But the reward for you here is pretty great, I think. You obviously have a roster that can compete this year. And if I remember correctly, Watson comes back, week 12 against the Texans?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, so he's pretty much a must start right off the bat. He was an MVP caliber quarterback in Houston. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. But yeah, dude, I think your risk, it's high risk, high reward, and we'll see how he looks in that Cleveland offense.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, but with buying him right now, this is, obviously before he comes back from suspension, it's either going to go down as one of the worst trades or a vast underpay. And the only reason you can buy him in the middle right now is because there is that uncertainty, and it's a really good opportunity to potentially buy in the low. I'm thinking about right now, like what would be required to trade for someone like Mahomes or Allen, and thinking about what would be required there. This doesn't seem like maybe it's that much. If this is, Watson's like the next one up after these two. Like prior to his suspension incident, he was a QB1, he was the QB2, he was the QB5, he was the QB2 again. It's like 4 years in the top 5, back to back to back to back. That was insane. And that's right up there with the best of them. So when I think about what I'm potentially able to get, it's an underpay, but that's why it's called potential, right? We don't actually know that that's going to be coming back yet. I've been going through QB purgatory, and it's been bad. I picked up Tom Brady. He's looked like garbage. Stafford, I picked him up. He's looked like garbage. Carr looked like garbage. I had Wentz, who looked okay in the first 2 games of the year, and then he looked like garbage, and now he's on the IR. So I pretty much have a lot of these, low end quarterback twos. And so I said, at the end of the day, if I can potentially acquire someone, oh, and don't forget, I had Trey Lance on the IR for the rest of the year.
All right, B.
So I'm like, if I can acquire someone that might pan out for me to have a potential league winning upside, awesome. If I don't, then at least I have Tom Brady and Derek Carr to lean back on. And it's, no weight off my shoulders, really at the end of the day, because I also got to remember what I had to pay to actually get the picks that I gave up. I didn't give up any of my own picks in 2024, and I already didn't have any of my own picks in 2023. So I was giving up other people's assets. And essentially what I wanted to kind of break it down here is I was looking for a QB upgrade. I actually reached out to Team Goni One about trying to see if he would part with either Hurts or Tua, because he has both of them. And ultimately ended up being too pricey for me. Goni One said that he wouldn't sell Hurts unless it was for more than what he bought him for. Back before the season started, he paid Derek Carr, Cole Kmet, 24 first and a 23 second to acquire Hurts. And so I said, well, I'm willing to match that. But he's like, no, I'm not going to sell for the same at this point. I'm going to sell for only for more. So no, it makes sense.
Fair.
Pricey for me. And I just, wasn't willing to pay up for that. So then I reached out to Angie, and I knew she had Herbert. She had another stud, so she wasn't having to worry about having 2 stud quarterbacks in a single quarterback league. Figured she would probably be open for it, and was able to get a good deal. And then I think about the value that I gave up. I actually traded for Stafford a couple of weeks ago. You guys remember we talked about that, and I gave up a 23 second at the time. And then the other 23 second I got from Isiah in the Pitts trade. The 24 first I got in a trade with Trevor earlier this year where I gave up Rashad Bateman. So essentially, I traded Bateman and 23 seconds for Deshawn Watson, which is a deal that I'll take, every single time. And I also think that the 24 first would probably be a late round pick anyways. So it's essentially like if you were in a 10-team league, like giving up 3 second-round picks for Deshaun Watson. So I'm super stoked about the value there if it pans out.
That's a good point.
All right.
It's pretty wild. Your fantasy endeavors come down to the masseuse laws of Ohio and what gets passed while Deshaun Watson's there. So
yeah, that's we're definitely going to see some policy changes this year, I think. Well, we have reached the halfway point of the season so far. It's crazy to think it's flown by. We wanted to do something a little bit different this episode. And so what we're going to be doing is the surprise bops and flops for the first half. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start us off and go into the players a couple players that surprised me so far in the first half of the season. And that's either by how, good they performed or how bad they performed in comparison to either their ADP or maybe just our expectations. So I wanted to kind of start us off with my surprise bop number 1, and that's AJ Brown from the Eagles. AJ is currently the wide receiver 8 on the year, puts up 18.9 points per game, and he's the wide receiver 7 in total points. Brown has shown instant chemistry with Hurts, and I know what everyone's probably thinking. He was drafted pretty highly. That is true, but there was a ton of concerns around his usage in the new system. And honestly, I thought it wasn't going to end too well for him and his fantasy value. But right now, if you feed AJ Brown, he's proving that he will do great things. He showed, glimmer after glimmer after glimmer of this when he played over in Tennessee and moving to the Eagles, which were one of the worst offense when it comes to pass offense last year. He's really unlocked that offense, and I mean, there's a reason that they are undefeated right now.
Yeah, I saw a stat on the Monday night game that Browns got more passing yards the entire Eagles wide receiver core, which is insane.
They got the Browns. What did you say?
That AJ Brown has more receiving yards than the entire Titans receiving core so far.
The Titans receiving core. I think you said the Eagles receiving core, so I was very confused.
Oh.
That
You know
checks.
what I meant.
I didn't know, but now I do. So
I
that's
said the Browns receiving core because I was talking about AJ Brown, but
yeah,
the Titans.
yeah. Well, we'll play that clip back and do the replay. It's like that. What is that new Allstate commercial or something like that? Where have you seen any of those commercials? Where they're like, oh, let's bring in the replay, bring in the review,
I'm sorry,
bro.
I'm too busy. I'm too busy researching how to spend my FAAB.
All right, that's fair. Well, my surprise bop number 2 is Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs is just a beast this year. He's averaged 18.9 fantasy points as well. So running back 7 on the year. And there's so many questions coming into this season around Jacobs' usage. Did the team believe in him? How is Josh McDaniels going to run this team's run game? Why didn't the Raiders pick up his 5th-year option? All these questions have now been silenced by his performances on the field. He has slowed down in the last 2 weeks based on just the overall offense being shut down for the Raiders. And it was just a disaster 2 weeks ago. But all this hard work should pay off by the end of the season. It's going to basically result in him getting a solid role and a nice paycheck wherever he ends up. I mean, I'd love to see him go back to Las Vegas at this point. It seems like they do have a great fit for him, and they want to use him in a role that's going to work really well for fantasy.
So not to jinx your Bob pick, but as a Vegas local, I was on Twitter a couple minutes ago, and I saw that TMZ might be reporting on some news, and I saw it might have to do with Josh Jacobs. So we'll see if this Bob lasts. Let's see if my info is good.
No, what is it? What's the breaking news?
I'm not sure if it's breaking. It's just some Las Vegas local rumors about him getting an altercation with a waitress, but we'll see if my information is correct.
All right. Well, we will see if our bop is a fan of bopping other people. So, speaking of the kitchen and people who are fans of cooking other than waitresses, my surprise flop of the year is Russell Broncos Nation. That's right, Wilson. And yeah, this is just bad. We talked about him, I feel like, every week on our flop segment in some capacity, but Wilson is currently the quarterback 21 on the year in total points. He's averaging 14.5 points per game. That's quarterback 20 on the season. We had so many high hopes for Wilson this offseason with him heading to an offense that seemed primed to dominate. We were expecting basically just like the Rams. It was just going to click right away. But by the looks of things, the only thing that's clicking is the people looking at all the memes of Wilson on Facebook that have come out this season. Their offense is inept, and I'm sure the Seahawks are thrilled since they have all of their picks for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I saw something that even Subway stock is down ever since Russ has been doing commercials with him this year. That's how much of a hit he's taken. So, yeah, a lot of L's for Mr. Wilson this year. He is married to Sierra, so that's a big dub. But yeah, moving on to my bops for the first half of the year. Coming this year, if I would have asked you who the best wide receiver duo in the league, probably could have got a couple of different answers. Maybe the Bengals, maybe the Bucks, maybe the Rams with A-Rob recovering and Cooper Kupp. But I think after the first half of this year, there's really no question. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are those guys down in Miami just cooking. Tyreek is WR1 of the year, and then Waddle is wide receiver 5. Dude, Tyreek has been so good that he's in line to hit 2,000 receiving yards. I originally thought that Tyreek Hill was still going to have a good year. I still saw him as a wide receiver 1, but to see Jalen Waddle as wide receiver 5 out of all the receivers is pretty nuts, man. There's those guys are so fast and electric. They're really fun offense to watch.
Yeah, it's been insane this season just to see them take off, and the fact that we talked about what was the upside of Jalen Waddle this year with Tyreek Hill being over there? And we said, oh, maybe, the hot take was, oh, they're both finished as top 15 wide receivers. And people were like, well, I guess it is possible that we could support, in that offense, that there could be two wide receivers in the top 15 that could be supported. Like it could happen. And not only are they doing that, but, two wide receivers potentially in the top 5. I think, Devontae Adams is knocking on the door. AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, these guys are knocking on the door of the top 10, of the top 5. So we'll see how it shakes out when, all said and done at the end of the year. But the fact that we, have these two superstars on the same team. And I know you mentioned Tyreek Hill's obviously on pace for close to 2,000 yards. Jalen Waddle's not far behind him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these guys are awesome. I love that pick.
Don't love as a Patriots fan, but they have been fantastic for fantasy. And my number 2, has the last few weeks changed the trajectory of Bears quarterback Justin Fields. I was looking at his stats earlier, and his play over the last 6 weeks has risen each week. He's went from 9.1 points, 15, 17.4, 19.3, then 26, and then a huge week 9 performance where he dropped 42 against the Miami defense. It's really cool seeing him starting to get involved in the Chicago offense. They're letting him run, letting him just make easy reads. And just over the last, 6 weeks now, he's now up to QB7 on the year. So pretty fantastic, dude. I was not high on his film watching him last year. But the thing with all these young QBs, dude, it's really hard to judge them until I would say to the end of year 3. You got to give these guys time, and Fields looks fantastic.
Yeah, and he just broke the record in that game against Miami for the most single game rushing yards by a quarterback ever. More than Lamar, more than any of these guys, and so that was pretty crazy.
All right, fun fact. You know who has the most rushing yards ever in a game, not including regular season?
I do not know.
All right, can I give you a hint?
Yeah.
Neil. Colin Kaepernick. All right. Next on to
wait, the most
surprise
rushing yards ever not in a game?
Yes. It was in a postseason game against the Packers.
Oh, a postseason game.
Yes. Not including regular season. Yeah, I think he had 200 or something ridiculous.
Oh, that is crazy. I did not know that. That is a fun fact.
Yes. Moving on. My surprise flop of the year is Najee Harris. Unanimous first round pick in both redraft and dynasty leagues this year. He's a number 27th running back and is barely averaging over 10 points a game in a PPR league. His best performance was in week 2, where he was RB12. Yeah, his best performance, RB12, dude. He had 13.9 points. And it's not for lack of snaps either. His lowest snap percentage was week 1, where he had 59%, where dealing with some injuries. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he fares the rest of the year, especially coming off the bye. But yeah, man, stinks. I traded Zeke, and I remember I think it was like a QB swap or something. And I thought that first rounder and Zeke for Najee. I thought I destroyed the trade. And then Najee decided to give me absolutely zero production this year, which is unfortunate. But, long-term dynasty is still young. Maybe Pittsburgh will figure something out this offseason with their offensive line. But, yeah, rough year for Najee.
Yeah, you traded your 23 first, Elliott, and Mac Jones for Goff, Harris, and Pacheco.
I got Pacheco for him, and I'll take it.
Yeah. Depending on how the rest of the season goes for you, though, that pick could be the real killer, I would say. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. You want to take us through this next, or I guess we'll go over the predictions from last week, see how I fared, see if I made up any ground, and then kind of look at next week's predictions.
Yeah, let's do it, man. First matchup of last week we'll talk about is Chris Rock's Jaw, yours truly, against Kirk Wears All the Chains. And we both were wrong. We both chose me Mr. FAAB Spender himself. And yeah, pretty much my entire roster underperformed. Evan Ingram, Kyle Pitts. Hello, where are you?
I could have told you that.
Yeah, you didn't have to rub that in, Mr. Eckler owner over here. Yeah, dude, I got 75 points. Andy's team got 120. So he won by what is that? About 45 points.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. Garrett Wilson had a good game. Tyler Hawkinson, I'm sorry, TJ Hawkinson had a good game. Kenneth Walker, obviously fantastic. Dude, he started Ronnie Rivers as his running back slot and gave him 0 points, so beat me by 45. So I'd love to move on to the next matchup if that's cool with you.
Yeah. It was a disappointing. We both picked you to win, and then you ended up putting up the lowest points on the whole week.
All right, matchup number 2, we have Satan Power and Love Boat Incident. We both picked Satan Power, and we both were wrong. Probably one of our closest matchups of the week. Love Boat Incident took it with 96. Seed and Power took it with 91. Yeah, not a whole lot cooking for Seed and Power this week. He started Brock Wright in his tight end spot, gave him 0 points. And then as well as starting Akeem Hines, who gave him 0 points. If he makes some tweaks to that lineup, he would have won. So that's unfortunate for him. But I mean, dude, Love Boat had Mahomes, so.
I also found it interesting that he started the Eagles defense, but he had 2 defenses on his bench. Well, actually, he has 4 defenses on his bench, 2 of them on bye, and the other 2 put up negative points. So just thought that was interesting. It could have been worse for him.
It could have been better for him too.
It could have.
Our third match of the week was $96 FAAB bids. Matthew over here against Team Joni 1. We both predicted Matthew to win, and that's what he did. He put up a whopping 162 to Team Joni 1's 134, who overperformed his projections. So shout out to him. Yeah, did you talk about your roster real quick last week?
Yeah. Let's just say he had Joe Mixon, and that's why he overperformed his.
Yeah, nuts, dude. You haven't even talked about that yet. Insane.
Yeah, I know we're not doing Bobs and Flops this week, but like Joe Mixon had 4 touchdowns on the ground, 153 yards, and then I know, another 58 yards through the air and another touchdown. Like he put up 55 points. You take that away.
I may be wrong, but I saw someone on Twitter last night that was the 8th highest fantasy performance of all time.
I mean, I don't doubt it. I know that obviously the 6 touchdowns that Kamara had 2 years ago, on Christmas Day, that was one of the highest ones of all time, and so this has got to be up there with that.
Yeah,
but no, it was insane, and so to put things in perspective, like the rest of his team, only put up 80 points,
which is more than what my team was.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. But yeah, no, it was a good week for me. I mean, I had I had Derrick Henry, 23 points. Godwin was the worst performing wide receiver I had. I had Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, who was wide receiver 1 on the week. Eckler, 23 points. It was a decent showing for some of the studs. Moving on.
Yes. So for our next matchup, we had what's this? School squad? School. I'm sorry.
School.
Versus Terrell, who's now 1 Mo W, and I'm good. Matthew actually got this pick right. He had Terrell with the upset, and Terrell squeaked by with a 7-point victory over Darius. I think Darius' big regret starting against Jefferson this week, who gave him a total of 0 points. But pretty good.
And Jefferson refrigeration. No, I was exactly like I predicted in the matchups. I had a fear that he was going to see, Mark Andrews out and also Keenan Allen out. As soon as that happened, I said that he's going to lose. And yeah. Also, didn't you make a bet with Terrell about this matchup?
I did. As the Lannisters say the Lannisters always pay their debts. So I gave Terrell $10.10 because of some Venmo transaction conspiracies, but the debt was paid. The debt was paid.
That's been paid. And Terrell is now on his way, climbing, started from the bottom. Now he's here. Now one mo W, and I'm good. That's what he says.
And $10 more in his bank account, so that's a dub.
Yeah.
So next we had Skull Squad versus Isaiah's Tiny Purse. Angie and Trevor are two bottom dwellers. Well, not once a bottom dwellers. What I projected early in the season as bottom dwellers, but Angie finally got her first victory, dude. Pulled it off 89 to 85 with a couple good performances, but mainly to our New England Patriots defense. So I'd like to give us a pat on the back for being Patriots fans for that.
Yeah, holla, holla, holla. And I wouldn't even say that she pulled out a victory. It was more like she hung on to a victory because she was leading going into Monday night, and Trevor had Duvernay ready to go, and all Duvernay had to do was like put up 10 points in the game, and it was over. And he caught one reception for 5 yards, so 1.5 points.
We were both wrong with that one. Huh? A lot of wrong this week.
Angie, I'm sorry I ever doubted you after rooting for you for 2 weeks in a row. Should have never turned my back on you. Please take me back.
Crap, friend. And then our last match of the week that I got right this time, Matthew got wrong. I had Saquon these nuts who moved to 8-1 in the year. He dropped about a buck 50 compared to Isaiah's tight end graveyard. He dropped about 120. And he started Justin Fields, Cooper Kupp, Zach Ertz. Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, it was a solid showing. And I also am happy to know that I would have beaten him this week. So, it's always nice when you see someone who's putting up a nice number, and then you look at your number and you're like, yeah, I could still beat him. How do you feel about that?
I have no comment. I'm ready to move on.
All right, let's move on to the next section.
But before we do, totals on the year. Matthew's 29 and 25. I'm 33 and 21. I still have a 4-game lead, so Matthew did not catch up this week.
No, I thought I was going to catch up with that pick for Dan there. Isaiah's tight end graveyard, taking down King Cobb. I was hoping King Cobb would start Russell Wilson, but he's on bye. Sam Ellinger. Nope, didn't do it. And he managed to put up that many points with Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb on bye. So
yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, not a good look there, Chuck. But I'm hoping to make up some ground this week. Wait till you hear my predictions.
Sweet, man. Let's move on to our predictions for this week, huh?
Let's do it.
So first match of the week, we got Chris Rock's Jaw against Team Joni 1. After a tough loss this week, and which I spent all my FAAB, I got radioed and roasted by half the league. I think I got a good comeback victory brewing to keep me alive in the playoff race. I'm speaking this week's performance and existence for myself. I got pretty much no confidence in myself, but I got myself winning. I think I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I think DK, Najee, and D Hop have big weeks and lead me to victory. Also, I have Team Joni 1's first rounder, so like I said, I will constantly be rooting for his downfall respectfully.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lineups right now. I'm gonna have to go with Team Joni 1 on this one. Yeah. I'm not going to give any explanation to that because I don't want to jinx it. But, yeah.
Sounds like you're trying to catch up for my 4-point deficit. So, moving on to our matchup number 2. We have Scold School versus Satan Power.
Slugfest.
I wrote, How the Mighty Have Fallen is what I wrote. Sounds like a poem that I am. Darius, our commission, is coming off another L this week. Once again, I am picking him to win this week. even though he's let me down 3 weeks in a row. Do better, commish, do better. I still really like his roster, and I expect some big games for some guys like Lamb, Swift, and Kelsey. It'll be interesting to see if Keenan Allen comes back. Doesn't look too positive on that front. I actually think it'll be really, really close. I will give a shout out to Terrell, who's known as Topodoma, who's now known as One More W and whatever. He did kind of predict the future with his prediction of Allen being out most of the year and how he was super down on him when we clowned him for the Noah Brown trade. But shout out to you, Terrell. Shout out to you.
Well, I mean, that's really just a lose-lose trade because Noah Brown's also not been playing. So
yeah, he doesn't put up a whole lot more points when he plays than when Keenan Allen doesn't play.
Yeah, it's kind of like a certain trade that me and you made for certain people that haven't put up any points either.
All right, what's your prediction, Matthew?
So I'm thinking that Seton Power is actually going to take this one, and it's not going to be close because I'm seeing that he's starting Marcus Mariota at quarterback this week, and I see he's got Deebo Samuel on the bench, and he's got the Giants defense on the bench against Houston. He's got the Raiders defense against Indianapolis, the 49ers defense against the Chargers, and the Eagles defense against Washington. Even if Taylor sits, it's a great matchup for him. Seton Power all the way.
Okay. 2 in a row. All right, we got 96 FAAB bids versus the Love Boat incident. I'm going to assume that we are projecting the same winner. I have Matthew. He's projected one by about 40 right now. I don't see Love Boat being able to overcome that. I was looking at your roster, dude. You're looking at Henry, Eckler, Tyreek, Godwin, Cooper, Adams. Yikes. Got Matthew winning this one handedly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go against myself on this one because as much as I want to go contrary to your picks, I can't afford to fall back in the standings on an easy one. That not that any victory should be easy, but he has unfortunately some bye weeks this week that are hitting him pretty hard, and recent injuries to Jamar Chase and Breece Hall, and definitely has weakened his team from where it was when he first started.
All right, next we got Skull Squad versus One Mo W, and I'm good. Topo, like we talked about, Topodomo updated his name, and I think his name comes true this week as a project. He's going to get the W over Skull Squad. She's projected to win by about 17 points, but regardless of projections, I just really think I really like what he has this one in a close matchup. Juju's looking fantastic last couple weeks. He got the best receiver in football with Justin Jefferson. Give me Terrell with his all-seeing eye and what he knows about Keenan Allen.
All right. Hear me out on this one. I think that Trevor's going to take a W here. And Trevor's going to take a W because he has Josh Jacobs, who has had 2, duds in a row, looking to bounce back pretty heavily, pretty strong. And then when I look at what Terrell has, he's got Justin Jefferson going up against the Buffalo defense, which is the number 1 defense in the league. So I don't love the matchup, and I don't really love the fact that Darren Waller has sucked this year and has been injured almost all the time. And so he's starting Darren Waller. He has Tyler Higbee out there who hasn't looked good the last couple of weeks. He could start Noah Brown on the bench.
Yours truly, Noah Brown.
Yeah. DJ Moore's on the bench. There's some options there. But I think at the end of the day, Trevor is Kirk Cousins, Jacobs, Deontay Johnson, and of course, 2-touchdown game from Dawson Knox because Minnesota can't stop tight ends. I think that's going to be what takes him to the top. Plus, he has the Bills defense. So every time they stop Jefferson and intercept Cousins, well, I mean, that kind of hurts himself there if he intercepts Cousins. But that's besides the point. I think Trevor's going to have to take it, and I got to gain some ground back here.
Respect. Speaking of Kirk Cousins, we got Kirk wears all the chains versus Saquon These Nuts. Saquon These Nuts is 8-1, and he's 8-1 for a reason. He's been the best, most consistent player in our league this year. He's got stars at running back with Saquon, Chubb, incoming Dynasty QB star Justin Fields. He's got a PPR monster receiver with Cooper Kupp. Some really good flex players with Sutton, Judy, Fournette, Connor. Giving the guys 8-1. Once again, my apologies, Andy. This is nothing personal. But for this one, it is personal. It's real personal. Yeah, I got to take one.
Well, I got to say, I think that, Andy definitely has a great team that he's going to be set up for success long term with. Really, really good core. Lave, Pickens, Smith, CMC, Ken Walker. And those guys have been lighting it up lately. So I really like that for him. This week, however, I don't know where these predictions are coming from because there's no way that King Cobb doesn't just absolutely destroy Andy's team this week. Justin Fields against Detroit, Nick Chubb, Barkley against Houston. Come on. Cooper Kupp against Arizona. Come on. Fournette against Seattle's run defense. Bro, if I was playing DFS, DraftKings or FanDuel, and I was able to put out this lineup, tournament winner, bro. This lineup's going to smash.
It's filthy. It's filthy. That's why he's 8-1.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to go with the King Cobb on that one. I also wanted to give a shout out here to Andy. Andy, trade me Christian McCaffrey. Just do it.
I want to give a shout out to Andy. Don't trade Matthew Christian McCaffrey.
You don't need that. You need a youth. You need to rebuild. You're ranked 8th in the league right now, right? You're ranked 8th.
All right, are we talking crap right now? Is that what we're doing? I mean, this is a guy who's not going to freaking have a draft pick until 2045. So have fun with your 45-year-old team here in 2 years.
I'd rather take. I'd rather take CMC right now before you lose all your value, Andy. I just don't want you to. I want you to get out on top.
You don't have no need for another running back. I'm done with this conversation. Very goated team. Oh my God! Can we skip this next tradition? I don't even want to talk about these teams.
So the next one we have Isaiah's tiny purse versus Isaiah's tight end graveyard.
So I'm going to choose a tie because screw both of you guys. Pissing me off with your name changes. But no, even though Angie got her first win last week, congrats to you, Angie. I think Mr. Sullivan takes the cake this week. He's currently projected to win it by about 20. He's got a better roster than Angie at this point this season. Also, guys, I'm willing to trade IRV SMITH to either one of you as long as you give me at least $700 FAAB. Ha, 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 ha. Done.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see the upside here. I'm trying to think positively about how Angie could win this week. I've thought through all the possibilities. It's not happening. So, Dan, congrats on your victory, my friend, to go to 5-5 on the week.
So what do we do about? Did we do 3 the same this week? 3 different? I think.
Yeah, I think we went different on the first 2, and that was about it.
Sweet. All right, let's get into MVP, guys. For my bench MVP of this week, I got Mr. Jeff Wilson. Dude had a great first week with the Dolphins. Went for 51 yards and 9 carries, 3 receptions for 21 yards and receiving touchdown. He had a total of 16.2 points. And unfortunately for Seaton Power, he did not start him. He started Nyheim Hines, and he went for a total of 0 points. So 16.2 is greater than 0 last time I checked. It's actually 16.2 points greater than 0. And if he would have started Wilson, he'd be 6-3 on the year and would not have lost. My MVP of the week is Mr. Patty Ice, Patrick Mahomes, brother to Mr. Infamous TikToker himself, the Mahomes. That's very nice. Speaking of Seaton Power and Love Boat incident, Love Boat won thanks to Mahomes' performance. And, dude, he threw the ball 68 times. That's how much Max pretty much thrown the ball the entire year, I swear. And he had 43 completions, dude.
He couldn't just throw that ball Couldn't have just thrown it one more time.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Nice.
But he had 43 completions for 446 yards, a touchdown and interception. On the ground, he went for 63 yards and a rushing touchdown. He went for a total of 34.14 points, and he helped Lobo take the victory.
I think that Patrick Mahomes is like one of the most awkward runners. Like whenever like Josh Allen runs or Lamar or Kyler Murray kind of runs like a toddler, but like Jalen Hurts, like all these guys, when they run, they like tuck in, they look fine. Like I don't know what Mahomes does when he runs, but he just looks so freaking awkward. Like he's just standing straight. He doesn't bend over when he runs. He's like running straight up, and he just looks like he's kind of like hopping. I don't know. I just can't describe it. It's just the most awkward thing. Like every time he runs, I feel like it's not even like when Brady gets out of the pocket and you're like, this is just bad, you know?
It's a Clydesdale, baby.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's just I don't understand why Mahomes looks so weird when he runs. But yeah, that 30-yard touchdown run is surprisingly fast.
Yeah.
So my bench MVP for the week, Mr. Cole Kmet, tight end for the Bears, put up 24.5 points. He had 5 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and 2 carries for 9 yards. Kmet had his best game of his career this week. Now, his previous best game on the season was only 10.5 points in our scoring. And this was a matchup where Trevor ended up losing to the number 12 seed by 3.9 points. Every little bit counts, and the decision to leave Kmet on the bench cost him this week. Now, the Bears are heating up, and going forward, I would love to honestly see this type of usage continue for Kmet. I think this is what a lot of us predicted at the beginning of the season. He was really a sleeper candidate for me for tight end, and it's taken half the season for him to warm up, but it looks like it might be finally happening. I don't know. It's 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown now.
Yeah, I got Kmet a couple of my redraft leagues this year, and I quickly dumped him. So it's nice to see him finally making a good performance here. We all knew he had it in him with his potential to be a red zone beast. So nice to see that.
It's always nice when like you draft someone, and even if you end up dropping them, it's nice to see them do well because you're like, at least my thought process wasn't that bad.
It was there.
Yeah.
It was there. It just didn't happen when I could have used it or whatever.
Yeah. So my actual MVP of the week was in the same matchup. So, or actually, no, not the same matchup. I'm sorry. This is Justin Jefferson was my MVP of the week, owned by Terrell, aka One Mo W, and I'm good. Wink face. He put up 25.5 points this week, and when Terrell went up against the number 1 seed at the time, our commish Darius, he needed all the firepower that he could get, and JJ didn't let him down. Put up 7 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown, as well as 10-yard carry on top of that. One Mo W and I'm good ended up beating Darius's school by less than 8 points, 116 to 109. A very close victory led by his MVP of the year, the man who is carrying Terrell on his shoulders. Give Justin Jefferson a massage. If you need a hookup, I got Deshawn Watson now. I'm sure he can help you out.
Whoa.
And yeah, that was my MVP picks for the year. So, wow, for the week, MVP picks for the year. We'll talk about that on another show. So let's bring it home here. I'm going to bring us home with some Week 10 power rankings. There's been some movement, folks. Since the beginning of the year, there has been some movement. Not just because I learned how to click the button, but also because people are making moves. So we're going to start at the bottom, as we typically do. And staying at number 12 this week, and it's really not close between them and the next place is Angie and Isaiah's tiny purse, coming in at number 12 in the power rankings. Number 11 in the power rankings is Trevor's Skull Squad. Number 10 is Team Goni 1. Now these 3 haven't moved in a couple of weeks. This has been the same. I think Trevor might have flopped with Goni 1 at one point and then flopped back, but they haven't moved since last week. This is where we start to get a little bit of movement. So now at number 9, we have our good friend, friend of the show, actually. He's been on a few times. Chris Rock's Jaw, coming in at number 9 now. This is a three spot drop for him in the power rankings. How do you think he's feeling right about now?
I had no idea. I will try to reach out to him and see how he's doing. But I imagine probably not too hot.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But I would. I'm just going to check in like as a friend. I think that he needs people to be there for him right now.
Yeah, he'd probably appreciate that. He really would.
I think you're right. Number 8, we coming in this week. We got the Love Boat incident. That's a 1 spot drop. He was number 7 last week, down to number 8. So number 7 at 7 this week is Kirk Wears All the Chains. Andy moving up in the rankings 1 spot this week. Number 6, this is a big move, is our friend of the podcast, Terrell, one Mo W, and I'm good wink emoji, up to number 6. That's a 3 spot jump. Him and Isiah basically swapped spots this week. And then at number 5, this is actually where they were last week as well. Isiah's tight end graveyard. They have not moved. Dan stayed number 5 overall. Then coming in at number 4, and this is where there's some movement. Number 4, we have Team Seed and Power, who has dropped significantly from 2 all the way down to 4 now. That's a 1 spot drop from last week. Coming in at number 3, another big change is our commissioner Darius has dropped to number 3 in the power rankings, and how the mighty have fallen. He is on a downward trend. That's back-to-back weeks moving down in the power rankings. And
Hate to see it.
May have overtaken him? You might be asking. Only $96 FAAB bids, obviously. Coming in at the number 2 spot in the power rankings, jumping both Seed and Power and our commissioner this week, is myself, $96 FAAB bids, number 2. And finally, bringing us home and maintaining the number 1 spot is arguably the best team in the league, or at least close to it. Saquon D's Nuts at number 1 in the power rankings. So there are our week 10 power rankings. All right, guys.
I hate to see myself at number 9. That hurts.
Listen, you're gonna move eventually, and it might be down and it might be up, but there'll be some movement eventually.
You're pissing me off. Let's wrap this up.
All right. Well, that is a wrap for this week's episode. Please be sure to like and comment on the video if you are watching on YouTube. It does greatly help the algorithm. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, please leave us a rating or a review. Preferably something nice, but I'm not going to force you to say anything. And if you want to give us a follow again on TikTok, follow us on Twitter at that Dynasty Pod. Just stay up to date with the latest content. We're going to post some of the highlights of the show onto TikTok. Isiah's been doing a great job with learning how to do some of the editing on there and helping out as well. So we can actually get more content out, which is the ultimate goal. The more that you guys share the videos on TikTok within the platform itself, the more likely the videos are to show up on other people's For You pages. It's all part of the algorithm. So if you are following us on there and you're part of our league, or if you're just listening to the podcast for the first time, interact with us on there, even if it's just an agreement or it's just putting an emoji comment on our video. Anything that you can do is going to help to boost the algorithm and help get it out to more people, and ultimately, hopefully find a community that can be created and start talking about fantasy football together. We want to interact with you guys as well. So, dude, what are we going to do? Pats are on bye this weekend. How are we going to?
I got a bunch of plans, actually. I have Friday's Veterans Day, so as a vet myself, I will be going to as many restaurants as I can and getting free food. My grandparents were in town after last week, so saying bye to them. And I'm actually heading up to Utah this weekend to go see the land of Mormons and them and their 7 wives. So we'll let you know how that goes. What about you?
Well, that sounds pretty exciting, to say the least. Don't really have a whole lot this weekend planned, but hopefully it involves some good food and just relaxing, man. I'm excited for this time of year, and the weather's starting to get nice and cold, where you can just put on sweatpants and sweatshirt and just kind of relax, take a nap.
Yeah, You know.
Oh,
Sweet, dude. Well, for that
thanks.
Dynasty podcast and my host Matthew over here, so long. We will see you next week. And good night.